Hi, welcome to Turn-Based Besties, a podcast where two grown adult men with no free time talk about their favorite RPGs. I'm DJ.
And I'm Sam, and we're besties that love to game.
And happy Pride Month,
Oh
everybody.
yeah, happy Pride.
Yeah, getting in at the very end, but we're doing it.
Oh, we're doing it. We made it. That gave us more time to enjoy the month and prepare.
I think so. Are you sorry, this isn't in our notes. I'm just asking you off the cuff now. Oh no. Are y'all doing anything for Pride Month? Does Kansas City have any like parade or anything that y'all go to?
There was a parade. It's not like some places it's things the whole month
Hmm.
or an entire week. Really, it's just a weekend with a parade.
That's
And I
nice.
I was working that day, so I was unable to go. Sadly,
Sad.
I know.
It's kind of Pride Month in Seattle, like the entire month, but really the last week and this weekend is like when the parade is and everything.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, that's cool. I mean, yeah, I'm sure there's a lot more in Seattle, and that's great. But Kansas City does some. We represent somewhat.
That was the first Pride I ever went to, I think was in Kansas City back in like when
Wow.
I secretly went because I wasn't out yet.
Ooh, you
Um
couldn't go and you couldn't go. You had to cross the state to
I had
go
to cross
further away.
I did well, I was dating a boy who lived in Kansas City at the time. So
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense then.
that's why I was like, I'll go to Pride, and then he took me to the Kansas City Pride, and it was. I mean, I don't really remember anything other than the fact that I went.
Well, okay, but I'm sure it was no. You don't have bad memories of
No,
KC and everything, so
no,
that's a
no
good
bad.
that's a good thing. Well, good. Yeah, so that's obviously what we'll be getting into. Up front, we do have our normal banter listed right here, so I will jump into that just to make sure we do that.
Yeah, we
Segue,
do.
segue,
So, oh my
segue.
god.
So I'm contractually obligated to talk about the children and some funny stories. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. So recently, Jay, the 2.5-year-old, almost three, he is getting close.
Hmm.
I like to just when I'm talking to him, I'll say, how much do I love you? And when he wants to be, when he's happy, he holds up all five fingers and goes five. And
Oh.
so, because that's I guess the biggest thing he can think of at the moment is a full hand of fingers, five. Um, but when he's when he's upset or when he's mad or doesn't want, he got in trouble for something, I'll still try to say that. It's like, how much does Daddy love you? And then he just holds up one little finger, just one,
Oh
and pouts.
no.
I know. So it's between a five and a one, but it's pretty funny. And, and then additionally, I've been working the last couple weeks back to work, and it's largely been remote or through the computer, and
Hmm.
it poses challenges when you're at home and you don't have a door to the office, specifically when you have two cats. And what I noticed is every time I would start, they would be asleep. The cats would just be out. Middle of the day, they sleep. I would walk in here to the study and start trying to do some work or trying to have a meeting or talk to somebody. And inevitably, every single time, you hear meow meow and they walk right in and they try to get on my lap and they walk around me and I'm pushing them down and trying to make it look like whoever's across the screen from me can't tell, and it's very stressful. Come to find out that the reason they're doing this, the reason they're coming in to bother me is my wife also works remotely commonly. She encourages this. She brings them in, she sits them on her lap, and she shows them to people across the screen that she has a cat.
Of course she
So
does.
Miko especially, and I will name our cats. So I get out there. Maybe we'll make a Miko Instagram. Uh,
Yes.
but he just loves it, and so he comes in and sits on her lap. So that is why he always comes in expecting me to do the same. But our jobs are a little different, and it doesn't lend itself as nicely to me showing my cats to the people I'm talking to. So anyway, yeah, so that is what's been going on back at work for me. What's going on with you and work and life?
I just got back, well, a week ago. I did a day trip out to Boise, Idaho. By the way, you pronounce it Boise, not Boise. I didn't know that until I was in the city.
Who pronounces it? That's what the people do there.
The people say Boise, not Boise. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, new to you too as well. Yeah, I had no idea. So I flew to Boise and I had an audition for Opera Idaho, and it was a fun reminder that my world is really small because about 40 minutes before my audition, and I got to my audition about an hour early just to prep and warm up and get the nerves out. I see two other Seattle singers who like I know really well. One walks out of a practice room and one walks into the waiting room right at the same time, and we're all like, it's like that Spider-Man meme where they're pointing at each other, and all three of us were like, "What? You? Huh? What?" And it turns out we were all back to back to back for our auditions.
Oh my
So
gosh.
yeah, I know. So we all sang, and then we all went to get lunch together afterward too.
Oh, that's cute. That's fun. And
Yeah.
were these people auditioning for the same roles? Was there um,
There was another, yeah.
competition?
One was another baritone, and then the other was she was a soprano. And I think they had a good experience. I've got to say, I had knock on wood because I haven't heard anything yet, but it was I think the best audition of my career.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's saying something.
It was
Because
one of
I think you've
those
auditioned a few times.
a few times, man. It was just a few times. It was one of those, you sing one piece, you hope they ask you to sing a second one, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Oh,
they
that's a good thing if they ask a second one.
Yeah, 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 yeah. They had me sing three.
Wow. Okay. So they were really like, where do we put this voice? Because they would have a few parts, or you're just trying out for one part, or what would that?
It was for three performances, three different operas that they have. Well, two operas and a concert, musical theater concert. And it was the kind of thing where you sing and then they say complimentary things to you, which doesn't happen in auditions. Like normally it's like, thanks for singing.
Straight
Here's the
face,
next one.
stone face.
And after my first piece, they were very complimentary. And I thought, well, that's so kind of them. They don't have to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I sang the second one, and they were specific and detailed of how happy they were with that. And then
Wow.
they started asking my availability. They asked me,
Oh, you got this.
I mean, they said, are you available during this day? And I was like, yeah, I am. And so they asked me then to sing a musical theater piece, which I brought. And they're like, great, can you send us more musical theater clips online when you get back
Yeah,
home
yeah.
to Seattle? And I said, I sure can. So, I don't have a contract in my email yet. So I'll say I have a job when I've signed the paper, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
they were the kindest people to audition for, and it's a lovely city and it's a great company. So if I get something, I get something. That's really cool. And if I don't, I guess I can't be mad that people liked me.
Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah.
awesome. That's great. Yeah, that totally make. I guess I didn't know that. I would have thought you sing once, you sing really well, they would know. But it makes sense that if you'd want to hear them again to really know and also place somebody, but then you know, musical theater versus opera. Obviously, they'd want to hear both of those. That makes sense, being so different. But well,
Yeah.
awesome. I'm so excited.
Thanks, man.
Clapping.
So I'll let you know. And I just got some great news about an hour or two ago.
Oh, hot
I
off the
have
press.
hot off the presses, man. I have four singers. This isn't new, but I have four singers who are in Knoxville right now for the National Nats convention. Four of them made the national semifinals in various divisions, and
Hmm.
then the finals were just announced, and they only take the top three of each division. And I have two students who each made the top three nationally who are going to perform tonight. So I'm really pleased for them. So
Oh my gosh.
no matter what happens, they will be ranked first, second, or third in their division. So they've already won. Now they just get to chill and have a performance tonight at this point, is what I'm telling them. Like, just enjoy the
That's
moment.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Don't have nerves, and then you'll
Yeah,
have fun. But
don't
also,
be nervous. No, I mean be nervous, man. Like that's fine, but once you've made it to the top three, man, just like enjoy the performance. Like what a privilege to get to sing on stage any day, but especially when you're leaving with money no matter what.
that's awesome. Yeah, yeah. Well, and the recognition and the money. That's whoa. Well, cool. And they, I'm sure, are fantastic singers. But also the thing that is conserved between all of them is their teacher. So I think that is
Oh.
a testament to you.
They're fantastic singers and they're even more fantastic humans, which is lovely.
Did they get top three in humans? Humanness.
They all get first place in human, as far as I'm
First
concerned.
place. First place human.
Yeah, first place human. Yeah, good. Sounds like you and I have both been up to some busyness this
Some
month.
fun things. So let's hop in though to the subject of the day and the subject of the month and the
Yeah,
subject of yeah, of the times.
yeah.
So you tell us, DJ, what we're chatting about, and maybe start us out with some terminologies and definitions, because that's so much fun. No, because it's important to
It is important.
define kind of some things that we're talking about.
Yeah, so this is our queer episode. So we're going to be talking about just video games in general, not to make it too boring for the listeners, but we're going to give you a brief rundown history of just queerness in video games. But Sam, you had a great idea to start with just some like basic terminology. We'll be using, especially probably me, since I am queer and I identify as queer, I'll be using the umbrella term queer to include gay, bi, lesbian, trans folks. We might say LGBTQ plus, which means lesbian, gay, bi, trans, queer. Sometimes you might see LGBTQIA plus. The I stands for intersex. The A can stand for asexual, agender, or aromantic. Sometimes you'll even see 2S LGBTQ plus, and the 2S stands for Two Spirit, which is specific to indigenous people of the North America.
Beautiful. Yeah, and I am the resident ally.
Yeah,
Also,
that's right. You know what, Sam? You're right, though. That A, the LGBTQIA, can also stand for ally. It
oh,
absolutely can.
I wasn't saying that, but if that's the case, I I was
It,
just defining that I am the ally.
you are.
And but one other term that will come up that I don't know if I was familiar with before reading into this some is player sexual. So
Hmm.
specific to games, when you have a character that you are playing as, the gender and sexual orientation of that character will reflect the player themselves. The game will allow you to romance anyone you want to and identify that character as you would like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I bet the difference. I believe player sexual wouldn't technically be canon versus a game that you'll talk about briefly, like Ikenfell, where they are queer by canon. There's no option to change that. So player sexual is not necessarily canon, dependent on the story of the game, but it is personal to the player, playing the game.
There you go. And so, why are we talking about gaming? Well, for one, we're a gaming podcast, and that's why we would talk about LGBTQ plus and queer people in gaming. But it's a significant thing to talk about. The gaming industry in general, the global revenue of gaming is greater than filmed entertainment and recorded music combined.
What?
You don't think about that, but the revenue is huge. And so that is something important to know. And this popularity is growing over time. So when you look at Gen Z and millennials, time gaming each week is similar to how much they watch TV. So it's 8 hours
What?
of TV and 7 hours of gaming, at least in this one study. So yeah, getting more and more popular as it goes, and the revenue is greater than filmed entertainment and recorded music combined. Just going to hit on that again because it
Yeah.
is so intense there. And 95% of what they referred to as young consumers, so 95% of young people play games in this other study. So it's not a fringe aspect of culture. This is a big aspect of culture that is
Hmm.
important. And so for queer youth, they will be exposed to these games.
Hmm.
They will see these characters. So having effective representation within gaming is a truly important representation to have.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I had no idea that it was more than recorded music and film, like film. That's wild,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. I didn't really know that. I knew it was big, and I knew it was bigger than filmed entertainment. I didn't know it was also bigger than recorded music combined.
I mean, because
And I guess recorded music is less now. People, it's they make more money on live performances and those kind of things. But still, I mean,
yeah,
it's two huge aspects of culture, and it's bigger than both of them combined.
that's so wild. I mean, you and I grew up in a time when it seemed that video games were for children, not for adults, and it seemed like of those children, it was mostly boys who were playing games, which obviously isn't the case.
Yeah.
But wow, I didn't read that in the notes. That's so cool. I mean, I don't jokingly even say this. I feel like video games are just as much art as music, as a television show, as a painting. You know, it's
Hmm.
new. It's new. It's way newer in society than all those other things are. But I think it's just as much art to appreciate.
Oh, absolutely. And it's beautiful because you experience it too. You are affecting the world. You are
Hmm.
within the world. You are within the art. And that could have a deeper connection sometimes than just looking at something or listening to something and being passive. You are an active participant in that art, and sometimes, change it or affect it to your
Yeah.
own will.
Oh yeah. There's a term for that I'm not going to say because I think I might be thinking of the wrong term, but I might put that in our notes because there's a literal definition for what you just said. I just can't think of the term, and
And I don't know it.
I'm too shy to
So
say
we'll
the
look it
wrong
up
thing.
later.
Possibly, yeah. I'll say it in our social media. Um,
Or
you and
somebody
I,
can at us and
some
let us know.
please let me. That'd be great. You and I both on our own independently started sourcing the same GLAD article, which was very cute.
It's
For
a
some of these, it's a
it's
great
a beautiful
article.
report from 2024, right? So
Yeah,
it's
it's recent,
modern and it's impeccably, I mean, sourced and it's great.
really detailed. So some of the stats that Sam and I are going to be reading are going to primarily be from this GLAD article, but we are also using NBC News and NPR, two articles that reference this GLAD article that were written in the past 4 years. I don't have their dates off the top of my head, doesn't matter. But all of this is fairly recent literature. So
Hmm.
close to 1 in 5 American gamers identify as queer. The lack of LGBTQ representation in video games is often explained by the assumption that the stereotypical core video game consumer is white, heterosexual, cisgendered, male, usually between the ages of 18 and 14. However, the data shows that 17% of active gamers are queer, which is a 70% increase from 2010.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. Well, being 36, I am not part of this stereotypical core gamer consumer market. So I'm happy to say that.
Yeah, you
Kidding.
tell them.
Kidding. I am very, very much so in that stereotypical core consumer market. But I am happy to be here as a sounding board and yeah, represent the allies and what we can do.
Yeah, yeah, man. Yeah, man. So, notably, the percentage of queer gamers is higher among younger age groups, with a 23 to 28% of gamers under 35 identifying as queer. So, this is a little bit off with national data that I think conservatively estimates that about 8% of Americans are queer. Tangent, tangent, tangent. When you and I were growing up, I think the percentage was 2 to 3% of Americans were queer,
Yeah.
which again doesn't mean that more queer people are being born queer. It just means more queer people are comfortable expressing themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, this is in line with recent data of Gen Z, where 20% of Gen Z identifies broadly as queer, so they fall under the LGBTQ plus umbrella. And as someone who interacts with that age group a lot, as a educator, that seems pretty accurate. Again, I live in an incredibly liberal part of the country, but that 20% seems to be right in line with the folks that I work with.
Yeah. But even if you use 20%, then the percentage of gamers is still higher than that. So, is this just a statistical anomaly or is there a actual, difference in there? Is there more or is there more likely that you are a gamer if you are somebody that is part of this community?
Hmm.
And there is some evidence that that could be the case. 11% or LGBTQ plus people are 11% more likely to use gaming as an escape. They
Hmm.
are 24% more likely to depend on a game to get through a tough time. And 66% of LGBTQ plus people say that they can act like their true self in a game. And that is compared to 35% of non-LGBTQ people. So there's, reasons there why somebody might be more likely to play into games. So even with less representation, we can see how important this medium is for queer individuals. And I don't want to assume why people play games and what their reasons are, but yeah, they can see themselves in certain characters and they want to explore their identity through playing a game and yeah, being an active participant in this game, as we mentioned before.
Mhm.
Or they're looking for an escape from their lives that maybe they're not as well understood or out in their community or whatever else, but they're able to live that and escape inside the game. And so it's a just another important reason why we need this representation and we need to increase this representation.
I agree. You wrote a little note that says up to 65% in states enacting anti-LGBT law, anti-queer laws. So
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah, that just shows that gaming is a an option for folks to literally escape
Yep.
sometimes actual violence that might be
Yeah,
enacted
yeah.
on them.
Sorry, I didn't mean to gloss over that, but you're right. That
Oh,
was
that's
the
okay.
that 24% of LGBTQ plus people are more likely to depend on a game to get through a tough time, and that went up to 65% in states enacting these anti LGBTQ plus laws. So I mean that's yeah they're more oppressed and they need something to help them get through it. It would seem, and gaming is one thing that people might use.
Yeah, that's I think what that 65% is what we would call statistically significant.
Mm-hmm. I'd say most likely. I
Most
haven't
likely,
seen all the numbers in that stat and the p values and whatever else, but I'm gonna say yeah. I'm gonna
I
say
was
yeah.
gonna say p values. I was like, I can't. It's been a while. Is that p value? It's statistically significant if it's under 0.05 or is it over 0.5? I can't remember,
Under
Sam.
0.05 for
Okay,
most. I mean, you have to define what you're defining as statistically significant, but
of
less
course.
than 0.05 would be yeah, less than a 5% chance that it's just statistically statistical anomaly and that it's true.
Yeah, well, someone has some research
Roughly,
degrees.
roughly, it's rejecting the null. Whatever. Too
Rejecting
much.
the no. Yeah, love it. Yeah, let's bring out our research side right here. That's why folks are listening to the podcast.
Oh yeah, yeah. We just lost half the audience.
No, I'll bring it back. I'll bring it back. With our GLAD research, not our GLAD research, sorry, but the article that we're using, they reveal that despite queer gamers comprising a significant portion of America's gaming audience, less than 2% of all games include queer characters or queer storylines.
Ugh.
I know, I know. On Steam, it's fewer than 2.5%, but drops to just 1.7% when adult-only games are excluded, which just kind of just makes me big sigh after
Yeah.
that, which means that makes me feel like queer people are tokenized as only sexualized, but that is a tangent that I won't get into right now. 72% of queer gamers say that seeing characters with their own gender identity and or sexual orientation represented well makes them feel better about themselves. Shocker. And this
Yeah.
percentage, right? Wow. This percentage is even higher for the Gen Z folks. 78% of 13 to 17-year-olds. That's wild.
That as well.
Queer gamers are 1.4 times more likely than non queer gamers to buy or play a game because it allows them to play as a character that matches their gender. Big agree. 68% of queer gamers wish that there were more prominent queer storylines in games. A big agree. 21% of non LGBTQ gamers and 29% of gamers overall also wish that there were more prominent queer storylines in games.
So come on, development companies.
Come on, development companies. They're trying. They're
People
trying.
want this.
They're trying. Some of them are. Research from the LGBTQ Game Archive, which we'll list in our references, on games released between 1985 and 2005 find that fewer than 30% of queer characters were playable characters. So they were just NPCs or shopkeepers or most likely a stereotype. Some folks have shown that in the context of all games released between 85 and 2020, very few video game characters were actually queer, and those that were queer tended to be cisgender white men.
Hmm. Yeah, and as you were mentioning, kind of there's optional, secondary, and then player sexual options that we had mentioned before at the beginning and to help define. So 68 to 70% of these non-LGBTQ plus gamers say that the option to be queer or having a queer NPC or non-player character storyline in the game makes no difference to their intention to buy it. So that is, most people would not, it would not make them less likely to play it.
Hmm.
However, the inverse of that is that 30% are saying that they would be less likely, which is
Yeah.
horrible and makes me sad.
Yeah.
However, also 63% of queer gamers are more likely to buy a game or play a game with the option to be a lesbian, gay, or bisexual character.
This is
So,
true. This is true for me. Also, if it has cats in it too. Sorry, I cut you off.
oh, you're okay. That was an important comment to interject with.
I think so. Do you have anything you want to follow up with?
No, but that it's kind of, yeah. So you're more likely, if you have to have those options. If you have the optional character to play, the secondary characters or exist, or the player sexual options exist. More likely if you are queer to buy that game, and less likely if you are not queer. Which that one makes me
I
a
know.
little bit peeved.
Yeah, even if it's a game that I typically wouldn't like a genre of a game that I wouldn't play, if there's a queer character in there, I'll give it a second look. That second look might be I just might Google it and see it, and that
Yeah,
might be the only thing that I do. But I'll actually give it more attention if there's a queer character in there.
yeah.
30% of non-queer gamers affirm, like you said, they'd be less likely to buy or play a game with a trans character in it. That's very sad.
Yeah.
Among queer gamers, 46% are more likely to buy a game if there is an option to be transgender, which I think is beautiful.
That is beautiful.
Yeah. So that was, if you're still with us, thanks for sticking through our little lecture that we gave right there. We will be listing all of our citations in our notes on the pod. They're actually
Exactly.
they're
Yeah.
actually they're great articles. So if if you're a nerd like we are, and if you're listening to this podcast, you probably are. Check out the articles. I think they're great.
They are very good. You will hear much fewer numbers and percentages and stats going forward. So
That's true.
if that was not your thing and you've held on, you're in luck.
Yeah. So now we're going to talk about RPG video games with queer characters. I'm going to give a big shout out to the subreddit Gamer, that's Gaymer, for helping out with some great options. I posted in the Gamer subreddit just asking for game suggestions, and it got a really positive response, which was awesome.
Yeah.
Some RPGs we'll be listing some RPGs with queer characters. Some of them are playable, others are just side characters. This is not a complete and total list, but I wanted to give enough options here so everyone in the Alphabet Mafia felt represented.
There you go.
So,
And yeah, and we're gonna list a lot here, but definitely keep in mind, and the numbers are. It does seem like over the years there is slightly more representation, but
mhm.
like we said, it's a what 2% though of games still. So even though we're gonna name a lot of games, the overall theme is that percentage wise it's still low, but these are some good games that we know of that exist out there, and let's play them and boost them, and hopefully they have more of them in the future. So the
Yeah.
first one we'll start with is Ickenfell. So you may have heard DJ bring this one up several times. So this one is kind of turn-based RPG, sprites and pixel art that's beautiful. And some wonderful music there in the background. I just started playing it. I'm about halfway through. I played it on DJ's recommendation. So this one though is interesting because the entire adventuring party is queer. So your main characters, your party characters, basically a lot of everybody you interact with, almost it's almost every single person,
I think
which
so.
is which is awesome. Like it's just flipping the script on so many games that are the complete inverse. So a few examples here. So yeah, one character even uses Zer, that's Ema, and then Rook, another one of the characters, says at one point, first, I'm non-binary. And then the other character he says that to just reacts like, oh, okay, thanks for telling me that info. And then you move on and go fight monsters and do RPG stuff, which is wonderful. Um, and I thought um, when I first started playing it, I knew that this was the case based on talking to DJ, but at first it wasn't. very upfront. I didn't notice it in the first, half of the first chapter, but then it's super evident, and everybody's talking about it. It's not covert. It's not coded. It's pretty upfront, and I found that beautiful and refreshing. And the game is definitely a fun one to play. Like I said, the music is great. Sprite works fun. The turn-based battle system is like, I'm only halfway through. I don't have my full party, but
Yeah.
so far it is a delight. So big props to Ickenfell. I second DJ's recommendations.
Woo woo! Another game that I just heard of maybe a couple weeks ago, In Stars and Time. It looks really similar to Ickenfell in it's sprite based. Your entire party is also queer. Different characters use he they. In fact, your main character is gay and uses he they pronouns. You have another party member that uses they them pronouns. I know nothing else about it other than the fact that it's another adventuring party where everyone is under the queer umbrella. So that's a game that probably later this summer I'm going to jump into and probably play just to check it out, see what it's like.
Yeah.
There's a game that you told me about back in
Oh yeah.
January or February called Beloved Rapture. The main character, at least the main character, is queer. We know the game has not been released yet. It's supposed to be released third quarter of 2024. So I think before the fall is when that's going to happen. The developer apparently discovered his own sexuality during the process of creating this game.
Oh my
So
gosh.
apparently, I know. So apparently, the main character has a similar discovery about their own sexuality. I think that could be a really beautiful story. The game looks right up my alley in terms of it looks like it was for Super Nintendo, but it's not. It was made in 2024, so it looks up my alley for sure.
Oh my gosh. Like, perfect example of life becoming art, and I
Right?
can't imagine how heartfelt and hard hitting that story might be, because the developer was feeling the feels at the same time
I
as your
know.
character.
And this
That's
game has been in development for a long time. So I think this is going to be really cathartic and just probably quite successful feeling for this person when they finally release the game this year. Like I don't know this
sure.
person at all, and I'm happy for them that they're gonna finally
That's
get to release
beautiful.
the game. you know?
Let's support that one too.
Yeah, we will. Another game that had an update, Haven. Originally, it was a game that had a male and a female character, and they were in a relationship. That was part of the game. Is they are romanced already, and I think 2 years ago that there was an update to the game to add potential male male romance or female female romance instead of just playing as one male and one female. And I have to tell you, when I first saw the game Haven, I thought, oh, that'd be kind of fun for my husband and I to play together. And I thought, oh, but man, one of us will have to be the girl, and I don't know, maybe we'll do that still. We've definitely have played games like that before. There's nothing wrong with playing a girl character if you're a guy, but we just thought, oh well, maybe we'll leave that for another time. And I just downloaded it because
Ooh,
now it's like, oh great, we can both play boys who are in love with each other, which could be kind of fun because we're both boys who
awesome.
are in love with each other. You know, uh, I was a teenage exocolonist. Another game. I believe this
You
character.
were?
I was. I actually colonized Earth. Everyone, you're welcome. This is a game that's also an RPG where the main character is player sexual. You can choose your pronouns and even your physical appearance. I don't know much more other about this game than you have to play it a number of times to get an ending that you really like, but it looks really pretty.
Okay.
That's about all I know about this one. It's still going for like $30 on the PlayStation stores, so I don't know. Sometimes I think the higher the price it is, that's got to be a decent game. They're not just
Sometimes
charging.
that's true.
Sometimes it's not, but
Well, yeah. Well, the next one I would say everybody's probably heard of, Baldur's Gate 3. So this is a big
ooh,
hitter. This is, game of the year, massive turn-based RPG, just beautiful, well written, everything that people love. And the options you have for this one is you have player sexual options, and then there's plenty of queer party members. There's a lot of queer party members to interact with and to play as. And you can choose your character's pronouns, you can choose their gender, and then you can even choose physical attributes, including things like top surgery scars, which is just so inclusive. Yeah.
It's really cool. I got to watch. My husband's playing it right now, and you get to pick everything about this character's physical appearances. Things that I was shocked that you get to pick, but also very
Wow.
cool. Also very cool that you still get to pick it. So yeah, you and I might play it still on our Twitch that we haven't created,
We
but
have to. We have to go through it. Yeah.
I think so at some point. Of course, we're going to talk about Dragon Age for a moment. Every game, the player is player sexual, and in every game, there are party members that are at least bisexual, if not pansexual or queer. The rumor is in the most recent Dragon Age that will be released later this year, everybody is pan, or everybody in your adventuring party is pansexual. So there's an option to romance everybody.
Well, there you go. Speaking of romance options being available, so the Fire Emblem series, definitely that's a big aspect of it. So you have
Yeah.
your, bonds between characters. Eventually, you can romance and marry somebody generally by the end of the game. So for Fire Emblem Three Houses, the female characters they can marry female Byleth. The female characters that can marry female Byleth are Edelgard, Dorothea, Mercedes, Rhea, and Sothis. And then the male characters that can marry a male Byleth are Linhardt, Yuri, and Jaritza. So you have definitely options there. And then also within Fire Emblem Engage, which I reviewed recently or relatively recently on the podcast, you can romance any character regardless of gender. So that exists and is great.
You know, you and I both played Fire Emblem Three Houses together. I think I've said
Mm-hmm.
this before on the pod. That I think is the first game you and I kind of played
Played together.
together, quote unquote,
I think
together.
so. Yeah.
I played it a second time for the sole purpose of romancing Yuri because that he was in the DLC and he's in that the Ashen Wolves. I think I'm making that.
Ashen Wolves. Yeah.
Yeah, he was in the other house. So I literally bought the DLC and played through the entire 50-hour campaign again just so I could marry Yuri.
You're gonna run away with Yuri. I'm gonna tell Max.
Uh, he was cute. Tell him, go for it. the,
uh,
Wait, no. Of course, we can't talk about queerness in games without mentioning the Persona series. We'll mention a little bit now, and we'll mention a little bit later, and a little bit later after that. First, we're going to start with Persona 3 Portable. Kotone, the female main character, can romance a few of the other female members, so she is player sexual, technically queer. I think it's out, up for debate. I hear in the original Persona 3, there's a scene on the beach where a woman is actually biologically a male, and that's the punchline, which is really cringy for me. I don't think I experienced that in the remake of Persona 3. Did you experience that either? I remember there was a beach scene,
no.
but I don't think that I don't think the punchline was that it was a trans character. So I'm glad that that was taken out because that's, you know, queer people
Yeah.
shouldn't be the punchline. There you go. Just throw it
Yep.
out there. It's a controversial statement, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's another game that I've never played, and I will look into it at some point called Super Lesbian Animal RPG. Your entire party is made up of lesbian animals. It's a turn-based RPG. That's what it is, man. It looks cute.
It does look cute. It looks fun and cute.
Yeah.
So another kind of big hitter with a remake this year was Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door. So this one's notable for you have a playable trans character named Vivian. So the character literally says, "Truth is, it took me a while to realize I was their sister, not their brother, and now their usual bullying feels heavier." So this is a poignant and also powerful way that this character openly expresses their identity. And this game, originally came out back in 2004, so 20 years ago, and they had a playable trans character. And then now it is remade for the Switch. So go out there and play Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. I know I will be later this year. I believe is I'll be playing this one.
I think I'm gonna try it out too. I've never played. I never really played any of the Mario RPG games. I tried the first one on Switch for maybe like 2 or 3 hours, and it was fun. But
Mm-hmm.
I just moved on. So I'll play this one probably along with you.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Another game, which I have not played, Saga Frontier, though it has a lot of games in its series. This one has a one of the seven main characters, Acelis, I think that's how you say her name, is a lesbian main character, and she can actually romance and marry another person. So I think that was probably a huge deal whenever Saga Frontier came out.
I'll
Let
look it
me
up.
think. Yeah,
You
look it
keep going.
up. When did Saga Frontier come out? Let us know, Samuel.
Calculating,
Calculating.
calculating. 1997.
1997. That's great. Good for them all the way back then. Good. There is Divinity Original Sin 2. All origin characters can be queer, depending on your choice. So, player sexual. A game that was just released this year, Eternights. The main character is bisexual because they have four romance options, three women and one male. We're back to the Persona series. Persona 2, Innocent Sin. The creator, or one of the creators, confirms that this is canon, so it's not player sexual. Canonically, there is a gay romance between June and Tetsuya. I hear that June is stereotypically extra feminine, so that maybe gets a little less praise from me since they're leaning into stereotypes. But
Sure.
now that I know that that's a canon romance, I have downloaded the game,
There you go.
so I might play it. This next this next one is not canon. It is not gay by canon. Sylvando in Dragon Quest XI. Have you played Dragon Quest XI yet? I can't remember.
No, I've got it. I've got it downloaded, but I have not.
It's wonderful. Sylvando isn't
Shamefully.
canonically gay, but he's coded as queer. He's stereotypically effeminate, and at one point, when a female boss tries to charm the party, if Sylvando is in the party, it says, it seemed to not affect him. And maybe that was just the RNG with me. Maybe he just wasn't affected because he got lucky. But I've read online that that happens to a lot of other folks too.
Yeah, and
So,
that's an important thing to mention. So yeah, there's so many other games. So far, what we've talked about, I think, almost exclusively are games that are explicit and
hmm
overtly somebody is queer.
hmm
And then this one though is one that you're talking about that is coded, and it definitely seems like there are a lot of games that are coded as such, right? And ones that we have not mentioned, and um, whatever that says about why they have to have coded characters and not overt characters,
yeah,
but yeah.
there you go. Going back to speaking of coded, good, and also the Persona games, Persona 4 Golden, due to canon at least, Kanji and Naoto are not queer, but they are really queer coded in the first half of the game. I think if Persona 4 Golden were made in 2024, I feel confident in saying both characters would be gay, or Kanji rather would be a gay male, and Naoto would be a trans man. Before any gamers get angry at me for saying that, I'm not saying that they are queer, I'm just saying they're coded that way.
Yeah.
So there you go. Sticking with Persona. Persona 5, Lala Escargot. Lala is not a playable character. They are one of your confidants, I believe, that you can run into. So they are queer. Persona 5 also has a queer couple that gets predatory with Ryuji on the beach. So Persona series tends to have some messiness when it comes to their queer characters, which is a little unfortunate. I've depending on which forum boards you go on online and read, some folks are like, "Well, you should get over it. It doesn't matter. It's just a video game." And I'm trying to give grace to that thought process, but as someone who is queer, if I'm going to play a 100-hour game and the only representation is one scene where two men stereotypically get predatory with a young boy, it doesn't sit well with me at all. So
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I love the Persona series, but those events are not forgettable and not forgivable.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the representation is low, like we said. So if you're going to represent them, either disingenuously or in such a negative light, with that small representation, that does damage.
It does, and I'm not saying that queer people can't be villains in video games, right? Of course they can be.
Oh, sure.
but not not that way, not leaning into that hateful stereotype. So
Sure.
that's my small soapbox. I'll
Agreed.
I'll jump off of it right now. There is I played a little bit of Final Fantasy 16. Apparently there's a character Dion who is in a relationship with another character named Terrence, and I've read that this has gotten great praise from the gaming community and from the queer gaming community about their relationship. So I may have to stick out that game a little bit longer and see if I can see what they're talking about. In the Dragon Age Inquisition game, BioWare's first trans character is Krem. I remember that striking me as surprising back in 2012, I think, when I played the game. I just thought, wow, I've never seen a trans character in a video game. How cool. And I'm so naive that that was the only thought process that went through my head was, oh, cool, a trans character. And that's where I stopped
Well,
thinking about, I was like, oh, neat, cool, I haven't seen this before. And I think it probably made a lot of people angry online.
oh,
But
you think back? Yeah, I'm sure.
yeah,
I'm sure the internet can be a terrible place.
yeah, it really can be. It really can be. In Final Fantasy VII, Andreo Rodea, the Honeybee Inn, is flamboyantly queer. The game, both the original and the remake, has Cloud experiment with dressing like a woman for a storyline purpose. I think the remake handled it really nicely, as Cloud doesn't seem over the top, grossed out, or pressed that he has to dress like a woman. It's almost a sweet moment with Andreo in a way. I just found it to be more tastefully done than the original. Perfect, certainly not, but they improved. So they get props from me, man. The Elder Scrolls 3, not a playable character, I don't believe. Vivek's own description is they call themselves brother sister, and of male and female, the magic hermaphrodite. So I believe we would classify this character as intersex. So I found I found some representation.
There you go. Well, good. Mother 3 is the next one. This is also a game that we have a review on. So go play this one. Go check it out. It's a fantastic RPG. The specific characters and individuals that we would chat about in this context are the Magypsies. And so they are, genderqueer. Sometimes they visually appear like drag queens potentially, but definitely queer characters, which are some of the highlights of the game, I thought.
Yeah, yeah, they definitely were the highlights of the game. And spoiler alert, it is an example where a queer person can be the villain, and they're not the villain because they're queer.
Yeah.
Yeah. In Fantasy Star 2, this one I'm getting from the internet. I've not played this game yet, but Uzvestia, the character Uzvestia, a side character, they apparently can teach the music technique to the male characters for a cheaper price because they look cute. I will
Hmm.
see if I can confirm that. There is the Undertale. Everyone on the gamer subreddit said you have to mention Undertale. There are a number of monsters that you can fight who, or party members, I met, not party members, just people that you run into who are gay and queer and lesbian and non binary. Which, again, I'd never played the Undertale game, and now it's on my list of games to check out just because I want to see a game that represents my community.
Research for this game, your backlog is blowing up.
Bro, I know.
But in a good way. But in a good way. So let's talk about another more modern big hitter, Cyberpunk 2077. So a really big RPG that was in development for a long time and a big budget game and a big studio and all these things, but they still have the option for V, the protagonist character. You can be transgender or non-binary. You have a transgender character named Claire Russell, and then there's several other bisexual and lesbian characters. Hades. So this was another amazing game that we were talking about. I believe it did it win Game of the Year? Or was up for Game of the Year? It was definitely up there. It was a big game from a few years back. So Zagreus is the primary character, and he can be identified as bisexual or pansexual. A few interesting, I thought, cool romance options. So since this is I think it's Greek mythology, right, or Roman? Greek
Oh,
mythology.
let me.
You'll look it up for me. Either way, so you have romance options that include Thanatos, the god of death, and Megira, one of the Fury sisters, and then you can actually romance them both at the same time and be in a polyamorous or poly relationship with them. So I think that was the first example we have of that.
Hot Greek. It's Greek.
Greek. Okay. And then additionally, you have Achilles and Patroclus. They mention in the game that they're former lovers. And then this is reflective of real life, or at least real literature. In Homer's Iliad, these two are also likely in a lover's relationship. I guess some people argue that it's just a very strong friendship, but I'm no uh, Iliad scholar, but I'll go with I'll go with lovers for the purpose of this podcast.
Yeah, they are.
And then also chaos. So chaos themselves uses they them pronouns.
Cool.
Yeah. Chained Echoes is one of the last ones we'll chat about, or the last one we'll chat about. Sienna is the thief character in that game, and she is in a gay relationship as well. So that's a character that you may have heard about us talk about. She was one of my top 5 thieves from RPGs.
That's right. She has a wife, right?
She has a wife.
That's
That's
yeah.
part of the church that they're in together.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So this is, for our podcast, a brief list because we know that Sam and I get long-winded. So this is not an exhaustive list, but just a sampling of some games that we thought let's give them a shout out on the podcast because they, for the most part, represent queer folks in mostly a good way. Of course, the Persona series has some trouble. A few other series might lean into stereotypes unnecessarily. But yeah, this is our list of some queer games that we think you should check out for Pride Month.
Yeah. So what can we do about this though? So I don't know. I want to be a doer, a fixer. I know that that's simplifying this. This is not something that can just be fixed overnight, or there's not always something we can do. But what could we do specifically as an ally? Um, Buy the games. So we just gave a pretty big list that includes a lot of RPGs, but some other genres there, modern games, slightly older games, games that will have different playable characters, different options there that we all discussed. So buy these games, give them a try. So it's sad, but it's true that sales of these types of games will speak loudly. The industry will respond if these games do well. Obviously, this assumes that you have the financial means to do so. So I'm not trying to shame anybody that might not be able to go out and buy all these games. However, I do think that most of us gamers have a backlog of games that we've bought and spent the money on and not played that probably shows we have a little bit of expendable income that we could put towards these games.
Yeah.
Yeah, currently only 8% of non-LGBTQ people state that they would be more likely to buy a game if there were queer characters in that game. Let's change that. So sorry to throw another stat in there again, or it's the same one we had mentioned, but that is abysmally low to
Yeah.
think that, yeah, games that include that, only 8% are going to be more likely to buy it. Well, maybe we change that. Maybe we just look into it a little bit more, give it a try, right? Step out of your typical gaming comfort zone. So maybe the games we mentioned are more RPGs than you like to play, or are just not really the flavor of a game that you like to play. Well, maybe give it a shot. I know that there were I didn't love. I think when I first started playing games, it was more action and those kind of things, and not as many story-based, turn-based RPGs. And then look where I am now. We're talking on a podcast that primarily talks about turn-based RPGs. So you might find that you like a game. So try new genres, and then try ones that talk about people's experiences that are different than yourselves, and you can learn about them. I mean, isn't that a huge part of gaming? Is you get to play a game as somebody different than yourself, and we're not all warriors, we're not all gods, we're not all those things. So play as a character that doesn't ascribe to your same gender or your same sexual orientation or whatever else, and give it a try. So let's see, tell people about those games you like. So if you try one that we're talking about here and you really like it, then endorse it, tell some folks about it, see if other people might want to play it,
Yeah.
reach out to them. Let's see. And then, here's a big point. I think this is important. Let's be kind online. Okay, I fixed it. Everybody's kind now.
Wow,
No,
you
but
fixed the world.
Yeah, I fixed it all. No, but it's an important point. I don't know what me saying anything about it will do, but more stats. Apologize, but they're important. 52% of queer people state that they feel harassed when playing online, and that's so over half. However, it is 38% in non-queer folks. So this is a horrible problem across the board, but it is more prevalent amongst the queer community that they're feeling harassed when playing online. Um, so this means being kind, but also standing up when others are saying things offensive. So don't just sit on the sidelines. If somebody's being offensive to somebody else, stand up for them. They need allies. They need voices. They need support. And so that would be a huge boon to getting people to interact online and to play these games and to feel comfortable. All those things. And then also just being cognizant of the things we say. There's common things that we say just colloquially and just turns of phrase and whatever, which maybe they're could be seen as microaggressions or could be offensive. So just kind of being cognizant of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And then how do we know what to buy? Well, you can listen to our podcast. You can listen to this episode. We just
Yeah.
went through a big list.
Yeah.
You can search online. There's several articles. There's an entire Wikipedia article that talks about queer people in gaming, and it's pretty exhaustive. There's a
It
lot.
is.
Yeah, there's a lot on there.
I don't know about you, but I referenced that Wikipedia article when compiling this list. There were just a number of games that I didn't feel comfortable mentioning because I had zero knowledge of the game, or
Exactly. Yeah.
or it wasn't an RPG for the most part.
Exactly, and that's why we try to stick to ones that were RPGs, ones that we're familiar with, or tried to stick to ones that I discussed that I've played myself or
Mm-hmm.
have rather intimate knowledge of.
Yeah.
But I think that also shows that there are a good number out there. Again, the percentages are low, and we need to increase the number of games that have representation, that have queer representation. But there are a lot of games out there, so there's things that you can look for that might sound interesting to you.
Yeah.
And then talk to your other gamer friends. So
Yeah.
talk to see what they've played, see what they like,
Tell
and
them to
just
check
start.
out a new game.
Exactly.
Tell them to check out a new podcast.
Maybe so. Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
This one specifically, or all the other ones too.
Yeah, but definitely this one. You know. I just want to take a moment and say thanks, Sam, for being such a great friend, a great ally, a great contributor to this episode. You and I were texting privately, and I'm probably a jaded queer person too, but I don't think every straight person deserves the term ally because it's couch activism, I think, for the most part, and that's really annoying to me. I mean, do what you can for sure, but sometimes I'm going to be annoyed by just couch activism, and I'm guilty of it too with other issues. I'm not perfect. But you are such a great ally. Like you walk the walk and you talk the talk, and I really appreciate it. So, just thanks for being you, man.
Oh, appreciate that. But this was, I mean, you drove the ship on this episode, and really captained it, and what our mission was and everything. So I was along for the ride there and happy to be. So thank you so much for what you did and getting us started with this. But this is kind of just a primer on these things, and I think we're going to keep hitting on it throughout this podcast, and
Yeah,
that's what's important.
I think so. Good. You're my first mate. What do you call it? What do you call
Sure, love it. First mate.
Yeah, you're my first mate. You're my favorite seaman.
Love it.
Love
Love it.
it.
So, what are we playing right now? So, as I mentioned, I'm playing Ikenfell, still finishing that about halfway through. And
Cool.
then I'm also finishing up Unicorn Overlord. I'm probably getting close to the end there on Unicorn Overlord. So, that is one that I will have a review on for next month. So,
Fun. Are you enjoying
what are you
Unicorn
playing?
Overlord? Are you enjoying the Unicorn game?
Oh, I love it. Yeah. So gameplay wise, I think it's really really good. There's so many things in the mechanics to tinker with that I will
Mhm.
talk about,
Cool.
and so many things that would lend me to maybe even doing a second playthrough on a harder difficulty.
Oh,
Um, but yeah, there's a lot to talk about there.
a,
It's been a
s-
blast.
a second playthrough. That's high praise from you.
I know. Yeah, mostly because there's just so many characters and there's so many ways that they interact and you can build your units, and so I kind of just stick to what's working, but you could do it completely differently on a second playthrough.
Nice, cool.
Yeah.
I just started. I've been struggling the past month about finding a game that just brings me some joy that I want to finish. You know, I've started a few games and have just said, oh, that game seems, yeah, it's kind of fun. Not really sure I want to play that completely all the way through. But I think I said this out loud last night. I said, I think I just found the game I want to play. And it is Trails in the Sky.
Okay.
So RPGers, some of the hardcore RPGers, which I think you and I are still trying to earn our badge as hardcore RPGers.
We're working there.
We're
Yeah, we're
not
working
there
towards it.
yet. But Trails in the Sky has a 20-year lineage of now I think 10 games, 10 mainstream games that are all connected. It's the Marvel Cinematic Universe of video games. And I am definitely not saying I'm going to play all 10 of them. I don't have the time, and I don't think I have the interest, even, genuinely. But Trails in the Sky is the first of all 10. And right now it's on sale on Steam, like a PC version, for
Oh, cool.
$10. For 10 bucks. So I said, I'll get it. And it's fun.
Awesome.
I've only played like 2 hours. It's moving a little slowly, but as someone who grew up playing RPGs that did move a little slower in the beginning, I'm not turned off by that.
Yeah.
It's I'll say this to you who you might this might resonate with you. It's Star Ocean 2 slow in the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah. So not
So then it's got the
unbearable.
potential to pick up.
I hear from everyone it does. And
Well,
exclusively everyone praises the main character as being like one of their favorite female protagonists.
really.
Like across the internet, across YouTube, across Reddit, everyone loves this female protagonist. And being 2 hours into it, she's fun. She's purposefully a little bit annoying right now, but I hear she's supposed to be annoying because it's this great juxtaposition of when she becomes mature.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to have growth. You have to have
Yeah.
room to grow. And so you got to
So
start out annoying. Don't we all?
exactly. Yeah, I know. Exactly.
Well, that's exciting. I hope you like it. However, I will say that part of me is jealous of your ability to put a game down and not and be able to say this one doesn't hook me, so I'm not going to play it all the way through. Because I wish I could have 10% of your ability to do that. I need some of that.
Well, I wish I could have some of your ability to stick through some games. So we'll do a little tradesies there eventually.
There you go.
Hey everybody, if you like what you're listening to, you can find us on Instagram at Turn-Based Besties, and you can listen to us wherever you listen to your podcasts. Go to our socials and let us know, how'd you like this episode? Is there a fun RPG with a queer character in it that we left out? Very likely. Please genuinely let us know. Email us if you want to at turnbasedbesties.com, turnbasedbesties at gmail.com. Hey, it's Pride Month too, and if you're feeling generous and giving, go to the Human Rights Campaign or the Trevor Project, a number of other awesome places that you can give a couple bucks and show your support as an ally.
Please, please. Yeah, absolutely. And then, like you said, we would love to hear your games. I mean, that's a big part of this is games that you love that have queer characters that you can endorse. Please share them on our socials. Let us know. Let's get the community talking more so that people can find these games and play these games and support these games so that the studios make more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we will be back in July to talk about Unicorn Overlord, as we just mentioned, and I, Sam, will try to convince DJ to play it. Like I mentioned before, it might be an uphill battle because of things we've chatted about before, but it's such a solid gameplay game that I think I can do it.
I'm excited. We will also, in the second half of July, play and review Fire Emblem Blazing Blades, also in the US just called Fire Emblem, as I think it was the first one ported over to the US, as it's one of our viewer requested games. So we hear you, Zach, who requested this game, and we're going to review it for you,
We got the
buddy.
shout out.
Yeah, we did. Big thanks to everyone who's following us on social media. Let's see if we can break into triple digits, baby. I'm gonna keep saying that until we do. We're gonna get 100 followers because guess what? You and I, Sam, we love going on new adventures with each new episode here at Turn-Based Besties, and we want to do
That's
that
right.
with y'all on social media.
Heck yeah. So, as we say, when everything in the world points right, maybe go left and see what you find. I'm Sam.
And I'm DJ, and this has been Turn-Based Besties. Bye.
Bye.